Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Adventures of a Real Estate Investor. I'm Susie.
And I'm Michael, and we're excited you joined us for this adventure.
So today's guest is Roschelle McCoy. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I'm a super fan of you guys, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, and we are looking forward to it. And just to let the listeners know, so once again, we met Roschelle at this really great meetup with Brian Briscoe. But beyond that, like Roschelle and I are actually in a lot of the same like women's real estate meetup groups. And so we've gotten to like deep in our relationship that way. And, I love how much you've grown because it's super cool to see like where you were even a year ago. And I can't even believe it's been over a year. And then like where you are now, like doing lives and making videos. I seriously love it. So thank you for expressing yourself and being in this space because I do appreciate everything that you put out there.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate you guys having me on. There's always continuous growth as I've learned, even with, you mentioned the lives I've been doing recently. I'm very much growing in my ability to do live videos, and some days they're just not good, but you have to take it as practice, right? And the more you do things, the more repetition you have, the better you get at it. So yes, Thank you for that.
Yeah. So in about a year, you'll get the notifications from Facebook. Hey, you did it live. Want to watch it again? So like,
don't watch it again.
It'll be treacherous.
Like a year ago, Susie and I did like 30 days live, whatever, like over a year ago. And so now like every day for like the last month or whatever, I've been getting notifications. Hey, you went live on this day. And it's like wanting to show me again. Like, wow, I didn't know how to speak in front of a camera at all. So
right?
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. So, I feel you. I can relate.
Will change. Yeah. Absolutely. Before we roll into, telling a little bit about your background, Roschelle, I want to mention this to our listeners and to our adventurous family, like the women's groups, plural, that Roschelle and Susie belong to. Like, if you're interested, if you're a woman out there, if you're a woman out there and you're interested in getting real estate and you're looking to get started, these women's groups are excellent resources. So please feel free to reach out to Susie or Roschelle and find out more information about them. But without further ado, Roschelle, would you mind sharing with our adventurous family a little bit more about your background and why you started investing in real estate?
Sure. So I come from a family that really doesn't have much involvement in real estate. So my parents did have some rentals when I was a wee little tot. I was just a toddler. And I'm the youngest of 7 kids. So they more than had their hands full between all of the children. They both worked full time and then the rentals. And so after a number of years of doing that, they finally said, no, but they were house hackers way back in the day. They built some duplexes and they lived in one side of one of them with, I think up until recently after I was born. So they literally had 7 children in a maybe, 2-3 bedroom duplex.
Wow, that's great.
Way back in the day till they built their house and then just did, straight rentals from there. But even to this day, my mom's like, you are so crazy for being a landlord. I did not enjoy it. And, but I keep assuring her that things are much easier these days because of all the, different technology and, they didn't have a lot of property management companies back then that, would deal with the kind of the smaller mom and pop type of operations. So we're very fortunate today that a lot of those things are much, much simpler. But in addition to that, so I've had a 20-year career in marketing at the same company, and it's been a really good career for me. But about 5 years ago, I was in a position where my job was eliminated. So one day my job was super important and was helping our company achieve its, strategic objectives. And the next day it's like, nope, not anymore. Wow. So I was fortunate enough that myself and the 4 other people that kind of shared that same position, we were all moved into new roles. So none of us became unemployed, but the fact that our jobs were just literally cut completely in the blink of an eye was incredibly scary. I'd seen it happen many, many times over the course of my career with this company. It had just never been that close. It had never been me, right? And so that was really my springboard to get into real estate. My husband and I have always talked about doing something with real estate, buying some properties and renting them, and we've just never taken action. So that was kind of the kick in the butt I needed to take action and have a backup plan because, if the next time I'm not so lucky and I really am unemployed because my job gets cut. I just didn't have a backup plan at the time. And so that was really my big burning why for getting into real estate. So once I made that decision, I spent about the next 9 months just learning everything I could. I got in bigger pockets, as a lot of people do. Did a lot of, I'm a huge Audible fan, so I listened to audiobooks constantly when I run, when I drive, when I do yard work or whatever it is. So I do a lot of that. And then we jumped right into being landlords by purchasing a fourplex. That was our first property. 6 months after that, we got a single family home. And then about a year after that, we got a set of fourplexes. So a package deal of 2 fourplexes. And then about a year or so later, we bought a condo. So we're up to 14 doors now total with our small rental portfolio.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that is cool. And you know what I love, like even from the very beginning, how you said that like with the layoffs or the eliminations or whatever word you would like to use, that you didn't really think about it because it wasn't you. And that's like the mindset for everyone, is that so many people think like it won't be me. And I think, they do it for 2 reasons, because if they do realize it could be them, like that's just like a look in the mirror that is like, wow, what do I do now? Am I ready for a backup plan? Like, what do I do from there? How do I know that because you felt it, like that was the push, but how would you suggest for people who like haven't actually felt that yet to like, what should they do so that they don't have to feel the way you felt?
Yeah, I think everybody needs a backup plan. It's so easily, and I find this a lot because I guess corporate America is what I'm used to, right? Because that's where I spent my whole career. I find that people just get so comfortable in those jobs where it's like, I get paid well, and they push me and they work me hard, but I get paid well, and I'm gonna, just continue to show up every day and do my best and be comfy and cozy, and I'm just gonna keep believing that this is never gonna happen to me. And it's just a poor school of thought. So, I'd encourage anybody that's ever had that thought of, what would I do if I was ever in that type of position, to go take some action, figure out what it is that you need as your backup plan in terms of, whether that's a type of career or the amount of money you need. Go figure that out, put some time and thought into that, because it's really important. You don't want to be in a position where you're stuck. I mean, my husband and I have literally had conversations where it was like, okay, what would we do? Like, really, what would we do if I was out of a job? Because I'm the breadwinner of the family. So if my salary is gone, it hits us substantially hard. And it's scary to have those conversations. It really is. But it's one of those necessary things, like talking about your wills and your power of attorney. And, nobody wants to have those conversations. It's just something you have to do at some point in time. You have to plan for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I looked at a stat recently, or like the past year or whatever. I don't remember it specifically off the top of my head, but it was very alarming that overwhelming majority of Americans don't even have like an emergency fund, right? So you can look at emergency funds various different ways, but usually typical emergency funds like 3 to 6 months worth of funds in order to cover your finances for that amount of time. Yeah, which is ridiculous. So it is very scary to think about. Like a lot of Americans are out of a job and then that's it, right? I saw it, I see it in my family now, like, through my relatives and stuff like that. Like if they lost their job, they have nothing else to rely on, right? So like I encourage everybody and the listeners of this podcast, like what Roschelle is saying is like, have those hard conversations. And then I would encourage people to go one step further and, hey, maybe buy some assets or invest in something where you're going to get some enough cash flow to maybe cover just your expenses. Like if you lost your job, like you could scrape by paying your mortgage or your rent and then groceries and then your bills, right? Like whatever that number is, figure that number out and then try to get some cash flow to be able to pay all those expenses. And then, then you have that and then you still have your job, but now you can live, the lifestyle that you want to live. But I would say at least have those at minimum covered.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. You have to have some type of plan. And if you don't, you're just going to be you're going to be stuck, and it's going to be, either way, it's going to be a really, really stressful situation, but the stress levels will go up exponentially if you don't have that plan in place.
Yeah. And just to say one more thing on this, and then I'll let Susie talk. But
fine.
the other thing too is like a lot of families, at least my family, you don't talk, you're not grown up, you don't grow up talking about finances. It's just like something, at least my family never talked about, right? Like money was like this taboo thing. And so that had carried on in the beginning of my, my adult life, where I didn't have those conversations. I just like, oh, money is there and whatever, you can use credit cards for this and that or whatever. And eventually you'll save up enough money to pay it off, and you really have to come up with a plan or anything like that, because nobody ever taught you that stuff, whatever. But like just having those initial conversations and continue to talk about those conversations about your finances and where you're at financially, like it'll get easier with time, and then it won't be so difficult, right? Like it took me a while to like learn that. So if you're in a family that doesn't talk about that, or like if talking about finances makes you queasy or whatever, then you just start talking about it, and I promise you it'll get a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially if you have kids, right? Because it's, kids don't learn that stuff from anybody really other than their parents. You don't get a lot of that education in schools. I mean, I may have learned to balance a checkbook in high school. I don't even know. It was like next to nothing in terms of, actual real financial knowledge that you need to go out into the world. So yeah, it's really important that families have those discussions.
Yeah, because even with a credit card, right? So like from my point of view, like turned 18, got a credit card, like left for college, loved that credit card. But even like when you check your credit score, right? Like they almost encourage you to use it so that your credit score can go up. Cause it's like, oh, well, your credit score is low because you have no credit history. Like, it's very backwards, and it's very unfortunate that it works that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it gets a lot of people in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. No, it does. And I'm listening to this book right now. It's called Soundtracks. And like something that he said, like really stuck out to me was pivot, don't panic. And like you said, like, that's just what it would be like if you had that plan in place, like you would be able to pivot instead of panic, because once you panic too, like everything that you do at that point is reactive, and then your decisions are made completely differently than you would have made them. Like if you were just being proactive from the very beginning. So no, it is very important to have a plan. It is huge. And so thank you so much. Yeah. For sharing that.
I love that pivot versus panic concept, because my husband and I went through a long period of time where we never really had a good emergency fund. We always had a little bit here and there kind of stashed away, but not a substantial enough amount of money to sustain us through any major emergency. And so we finally bit the bullet at one point in time, saved up, put the money aside. And then like a year later, we had a major system failure at our house. And had we not, and we kind of wiped out that whole savings account that we had just built up to pay for that. But had we not had that, we would have been like, well, let's put it on the credit card, or let's get a home improvement loan or something, right? We would have had no plan to pay for that, and would have been panicking and just, going to all these other high interest types of means of trying to get that money so we could repair this thing in our house. And thankfully we didn't have to do that. So.
No, yeah, that is great. And like even the impact then that had on you, right? So like it makes you feel calmer. But what a lot of people like don't think about is like when parents stress out, kids are stressed out too, like it directly gets moved down. So like the whole time, if that wouldn't have happened, like the impact even on your children would have been greater. And that's another thing. Parents, unfortunately, that I see, like, that's not something that is talked about either. Like, what impact is this having on our kids right now? Like from the way that we react, or how we tell them like news happened, or how we discuss finances. I mean, you can talk about anything with your children. The way you put it, like, will impact them for life. They will mimic what you do, no matter what the age is. I mean, yes, you can have that child that like really stands out, which was me, but I did learn all the things that I didn't want to do. So it can go both ways. Like, things happened in my household and I just took it as I know I'll never want to do this. So, I mean, every opportunity is a learning opportunity. You just have to figure out how to like make sure that they actually take from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you could do, a whole podcast series on that, on
right?
conversations with your children. And I love what you said about, how you react to situations really affects them. I mean, the first time you see your child, get angry or throw a fit, and you see yourself in that child, and you're like, oh, they've seen me exhibit that behavior, and that's exactly why they're reacting that way. You want to talk about an eye opener that will open your eyes to the way that you act and react to different situations, and making sure that you're maybe a little more, kids need to see your emotions, right? They need to know that parents have those emotions, and that, we feel happy, sad, and angry and all those things, but that we manage them, right? We control them to some extent, so that, we're just not like little fireworks exploding all over the place, which is sometimes what kids are.
I like that. Fireworks all over the place. That was actually really good. Thank you. That made my heart feel full. No, it did.
I've got 3 fireworks in my house.
All the time.
Right? Not just on the 4th of July.
Right. 365.
Nice. Every day is an explosion.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I wanted to piggyback on what Susie said, the impact that had, like, be able to, be proactive and take the action to save that money away for a rainy day or for issues that might come up. Right. It's like, I could only imagine, like, to add to what Susie mentioned, like what impact that had on the children. Like, if you didn't have that fund, yes, that was a stressful situation. I'm sure that was a large sum of money that you had to pay out, right? Like, but you had the funds to do so because you were proactive. If that hadn't been the case, I can only imagine that it perhaps might have been a little bit more stressful, right? And then that stress would have been, passed through the rest of your family, right? So, yeah, I can only imagine that can be.
Did you ever, like, as you were saving, were you ever in the situation where you ever had to say no? I mean, I know parents say no often, but, like, did you ever have to, like, explain why, or, like, if you were saving, like, did those conversations come up?
Yeah, absolutely. So we did the Dave Ramsey program a number of years ago when we decided we wanted to be debt-free, get our finances under control. We've never been in exorbitant amounts of credit card debt or anything like that, but, we just had enough that it was like, we just need to better control our spending, more or less. And then the reduction of debt will come naturally as a result of that.
Yeah.
We'll accrue less and we'll pay down more. But during that time, we for a number of years, we went on like a cash basis for most of all of our expenditures, right? So paychecks would come in, we'd pay all of our bills through our online banking system. And then any of our day-to-day expenses, gas, we didn't do it with food necessarily because groceries are really hard to budget for, but we did it for just eating out and, fun things with the family and just little things here and there. We went on a cash basis for that. So when we get paid, we go to the ATM, withdraw the money, and I split it out between my husband and I, and that was our allotment for the week. And so that led to a lot of, no, we can't do that this week, or, let me put aside $20 from this week into the next week. So we'll save up for a couple of weeks and then we can go do that fun thing. And yeah, I mean, that's a good lesson for the kids to just not think that there's always so much money there that they, you can just do whatever you want, because it's not always that way. And it's, for some people, they live that way their entire lives, their entire careers, where they're really just watching the spend week by week as they get those paychecks. There's just not that much left over where they really have to be cognizant of it. So even if you're in a position and, you're, with your family and your careers and where you are finance wise, it's so good to instill those lessons in kids that money doesn't grow on trees. It just doesn't flow freely. It has to come from somewhere. It has to be earned, and you have to work hard for it. My little one loves to ask for chores around the house, and he wants to get paid like $20 for a chore, for like a 5-minute chore. And I'm like, let's take a step back here. talk about what things are worth and the time value of money. It's like, it really does lead to good conversations that you need to have with your kids.
That's awesome. Yeah, just so our listeners are aware as well, like what Roschelle is saying, I think, and I've heard this multiple times before, is like, and this is like, that's like a hardcore method, like going to the ATM, pulling your cash out, and then just spending that cash on it. I'm sure it's very challenging. You have to be very disciplined to do that, which is awesome. I've even heard people like they'll label envelopes like, gas, yep, or, groceries or, movie time or whatever, like in allocating, cash into those specific envelopes. And then when you're ready, use and see, okay, we have $100 in here. We can go, out to eat or something like that. Right. So that's a pretty cool method for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly the approach we took, was kind of divvying it all out. I remember at one point, one of my friends was asking me, they're like, so how do you like doing the Dave Ramsey system? And I'm like, it's stressful. And we knew the goal we had in mind, right? And we had an objective for doing it, but just like being on that cash basis, because things come up, right? And you can't always predict what expenses are going to come up. Like the kids come home from school and it's like, well, you got $5 for this and $10 here. It's like, I don't have any money left, because according to Dave Ramsey, I'm supposed to allocate every dime to something every week and make sure that any little bit that's left over gets paid down on a bill. So we were doing that. But then you run into these situations where it's like something came up and you either say no, or you're like, can we put that off till next week? And then, so it requires a lot of creativity in making it work. And it was very stressful at times, but we were happy we did it overall, for sure.
Yeah. I was gonna say, it is amazing. Like, once you sit down and actually write down everything that you're paying money to, if you have subscriptions to things as well, it's very surprising. Like when Susie and I did it, and we would do it randomly, just whenever. The more and more we do it, the more we realize, okay, every time we take on another expenditure, whatever expense, we're like, okay, do we really need this? And we're very thorough at making sure that we need it or we don't need it before. Mm-hmm. But when we sat down and looked at everything and kind of split out, okay, what we're spending money on, we're like, wow, I can't believe we're spending this much on, I don't know, Netflix or whatever. I don't know, just throwing some random thing out there, but and just cutting all those expenses or whatever, and it just adds up over time. So.
And since we're on the topic of children, something that even drew me to you was your love for obviously children and St. Jude. Can you talk about that? Because I think it's huge. I think it deserves time. So I'd love to talk about that more, and why you are so invested in it, and what you hope to do with it, really.
Sure. Yeah. So my sister, I'd say, started the legacy for our family, and it's really grown. And we've all, my parents and the 7 kids, we've all had some involvement at some point in time with the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital organization. So my sister decided a number of years ago that she wanted to do the Memphis to Peoria run. So for listeners that aren't familiar, there's a group of people that run from the main St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, to the Peoria affiliate hospital in Peoria, Illinois. It's a 400 and some mile run. Of course, there's lots of people. You do it relay style, you don't run the whole time, but it's about I think a 4-day commitment to run from one place to the other. And of course, the whole goal is to raise money for the hospital. So she started doing that for a couple of years, and then transitioned to a different run, Chicago to Peoria, which then she brought me into. She brought in her husband, a couple of my brothers and sisters. And so at some point in time, I think out of the 7 of us, 5 of us have done the run. Plus we brought in some spouses and in-laws as well. So I think maybe 8 or 9 total from our family have done this run in some form or another. That inspired my dad at one point in time to be a chef for the Memphis to Peoria run. So they take along people that actually cook all of their meals for him. So he was the chef for a number of years. He's since retired from that, but he and my mom still are really involved with storing a lot of the equipment and stuff for the chef. So they get together with the cooking crew every year before the run and help them get everything prepared, and then, put stuff away after the runs are over. So it's really been just something that's been close to our hearts for a number of years. We've been super fortunate as a family that we've never had anybody in our immediate family that's had, some type of chronic illness as a child or childhood cancer, but it's everywhere. I mean, we know so many people that it has affected that it just really drives you to keep going. So yeah, it's something I'm super passionate about, and want to do it as long as my legs will carry me on that run.
That's incredible. How many miles total do you end up running over the 400?
So I do the Chicago. I've never done the Memphis one. It is on my bucket list one of these years, but I do the Chicago to Peoria run. And so that one's 158 miles. It takes 2 days. I usually run around 20 to 25 miles. So it's something where you can run as much or as little as you want. So some people will run 40, 50 miles in 2 days, which blows my mind. Some people might run 10, so it's kind of whatever you want to do and what you're comfortable with and your physical ability to do so.
Gotcha. There's like a chaser van or something like that, and then you just swap out whenever.
There's a chase van that can pick up the people that can't quite make it. We affectionately call it the struggle bus. So if you can't finish your leg,
that's where the term comes from.
Hop on the struggle bus.
That's funny.
That is incredible. You put us down. I'm gonna run it, and Susie will too, I'm sure.
We're running.
We're gonna be running with you.
You're running.
We're gonna do the full 400.
No, I does Chicago.
I know.
Oh, we're committing her to Memphis.
Yeah. When she does it,
okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we're all gonna do it on this podcast right now. Mark it. When we get back to the States, we're gonna do the full 400 with you.
I love it. Awesome. First weekend in August every year. You can put it on your calendar.
Wow, cool. That's not hot or anything. I can't wait.
No, not at all.
That's awesome.
That is
I love
awesome.
running. Yeah. So
are your children involved in that?
Not in the run itself. You have to be at least 16 to do the run, but we get them involved with other little things. So to raise money for the big Chicago to Peoria run, we put on a smaller local run in our local community here. And so of course the kids come out and help with that. They hand out water to the runners and different things. So we do involve them quite a bit. My sister and brother, before we started doing the local like 5K, 10K runs, they used to do what they called the River Bottom Speedway race, which was like a demo derby car race. And so of course the kids love to get out and help with that as well. They didn't drive the cars, but they helped out with, the food and the prizes and all the fun things that we did with that event. So yeah, we've done a lot of different things over the years and try and bring the kids in whenever we can.
I like that. That's cool. Yeah. That's fun.
Yeah,
it is. I like it. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, because even like when you put out that first newsletter, I was like, this is neat. So like I have to learn more. So thank you.
Yeah, it's one of those events in your life that you do it once and you're hooked. You're like, I'll say this, the first day you're like, why on earth did I sign up for this? Because you're running and it's hot and you're sore. And then by the time you reach the end on day 2, where you see, because all of these people, and I'm speaking primarily pre-COVID, all of these people descend into Peoria because all of the runs come in at the same time. So people are coming from Memphis, they're coming from Chicago, St. Louis. There's 40 local satellite runs, as they call them. So runs from other little cities, they all descend into Peoria at the same time on this one day, which kicks off the St. Jude Telethon. So there's thousands of people lining the streets and cheering you on. And it's just a super fulfilling experience.
No, that's true.
That's really cool.
It's like my senior year of college. I mean, I didn't do anything for St. Jude. So like I went to the University of Iowa and there's a children's hospital there and we do a dance marathon. And so it's like over 24 hours and like the children will come out and speak or the parents will come out and speak, like, cause you had to raise, I don't know how much, I think each student, it was like $550 or something, but it's crazy. Like when you're doing it on your own, I don't want to say you feel it less. Well, I mean, I guess that was my experience, but then when you got to dance marathon, like, and everybody was there and like, even when the kids came out and talked and like, you felt the wave of emotion, like that's where it all, like, that's where you really feel it, like giving money, you don't actually see where it ever goes to. Like when somebody gets in there and they tell you about their experience and like how it changed their life, that's when it like takes you over and you're like, oh my gosh. But when everybody else has all the good feels, like you get those as well, which is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Power of the group is very strong.
Absolutely. Susie, what is a dance marathon? Is it like literally dancing for 24 hours straight?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Just curious.
I think Susie should show us some of her dance moves.
That's right.
Right?
That's all you get.
Oh, shucks.
That's all I got. And now I'm like a strawberry.
So you're making me one too. It's fine.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this via Spotify or Apple, iTunes, whatever, go check out the video on our YouTube channel and you can watch those amazing dance moves that Susie just broke down for us.
Totally worth it.
Definitely check it out. Real quick, I did do one St. Jude's event before, Roschelle, and that was I ran the marathon in Nashville.
Well, awesome.
And so they had like rock and roll marathon or whatever.
Yes.
You remember? Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the St. Jude's Razor or whatever. So I did that in like 2014. So yeah, it's been a minute, but yeah, I'm looking forward to, running this 400 miler with you when we get back to the States. So.
Awesome. That's phenomenal. Can't wait.
Right.
Awesome. So unfortunately it is getting towards the end of the show, Roschelle, which brings us to the Adventurous Four. These are 4 exploratory questions we ask all of our guests. So I know you're intimately familiar with all of them, but I will repeat them. The first question is, where is one place you wish to travel to and why?
So with my job, I've done a lot of traveling around the world. It's taken me to many places, but if you've ever traveled for business, you know that business travel is substantially different than leisure travel. I'd get back from a trip and my friends would be like, oh, how was this place? And it's like, well, I saw the airport, I saw some roads, I saw a hotel, and I saw some conference rooms. It was pretty awesome. So, so I've been to a lot of wonderful places. I want to go back to some of those places and definitely do, some exploring and see the culture in more detail. One place I have not been to, however, that I really wish to go to is the Australia, New Zealand, Fiji area. So I've never been, to that particular corner of the world. And it's definitely on my bucket list to get to at some point in time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, sounds beautiful. It's on ours too. So then the second question is, what is the number one thing on your bucket list and how are you leveraging real estate investing to achieve it?
Ta-da! See, I have a bucket list into my last question. So I think travel is one of my big things. Just, I've experienced a lot, but my husband never gets to go on those trips with me. So he hasn't had those same experiences. And of course you never get to take the kids along on a business trip either. So to be able to take the whole family and immerse them in those different cultures and just help them to see that the world is so big and so much bigger than you, because, we all tend to sometimes be very self-focused, which is just a natural human quality, but to really go out, really when you see, that there's so much else out there, there's, so many different worlds, if you will, cultures and languages and everything, it just really opens your eye to what a teeny little part of this planet you are, and makes you appreciate the diversity that's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. The world is so beautiful and there's just so much of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Every time I travel somewhere new, it's just such an eye opener. It's nice and refreshing. Yeah, absolutely. And it's grounding as well.
That's true.
Yeah. The third question, Roschelle, is what is one piece of advice you have for someone who wants to start passively investing in real estate?
Just keep swimming. So I don't know if do you guys watch kids movies? Yes, got it. Okay, good. I was hoping I didn't lose you with the reference. Just take action and keep putting one foot in front of the other. Feel free to go out to my Facebook page and see how terrible my live feeds are. And you can appreciate that I'm just taking one step at a time and trying to grow and get better with everything I do. There's so much you can do in real estate. There's so much opportunity out there, but you have to discover what is right for you and your goals and, what you're going to enjoy doing. Because if you don't enjoy doing it, if it doesn't make you happy, then none of it's worthwhile.
The fourth and final question is, if you had unlimited resources available to you, how would you leave an impact?
I would say doing a lot more of what I've already started doing with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, getting more involved in that organization. I have a really soft heart for, anybody that comes and asks me for money for a nonprofit. I'm like, of course, so just being able to give wherever, whenever and wherever you have the means to give, both financially, but also of my time as well. One of the things I'm really looking forward to with, becoming successful in real estate is having more time freedom. And so using that time to help those organizations, because of course they need, money to support their different causes, but they also need people to volunteer and help, get the work done that, that they're trying to do to achieve their mission. So having both the time and the money to be able to further support those different causes that I'm passionate for.
Yeah, that's huge. And I mean, once you start doing that, because I love volunteering, just in person, all the in-person stuff, that's where it actually works for me. When you can do it like whenever you want, instead of just like in designated time slots. It even changes the way that you look at it as well, right? Because even with me for big brothers and big sisters, like I can only see my little on the weekends and sometimes at night. And I just found that to be a bummer. Granted, she had school, but when school was not in session, I would have liked to be able to see her more, but it's like, no, like I work, I'm sorry. So that's always a bummer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that work thing can be a drag.
Right? Yeah, man. So Roschelle, thank you so much. Before we end the show, would you mind sharing with our adventurous family how they can get a hold of you?
Sure. So I think you can see all of my, oh, dang, I always do that wrong. These. So you can see all my contact information here. My website's investtitanium.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook at investtitanium is my handle. So yeah, reach out and connect. I'd love to chat.
Yeah, and if you reach out and connect with Roschelle on LinkedIn, make sure that you drop a line and say, I heard you on the amazing podcast, The Adventures of Real Estate Investor with Susie Michael, and you gave a really awesome interview. And she will accept your connection if you do that. Absolutely. 100%
Absolutely.
correct.
Only if they name drop your names. Nobody else will I accept into my social circle.
You're cute. But Roschelle, thank you so much for joining us today. It's truly been a pleasure. I know I will see you very soon. So thank you again for being here with us.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, it was such an awesome time. So until next time, explore more, adventure awaits.